along with action recognition. So I don't know what the correct answer is, but it certainly makes the problem harder having to localize actions. Yeah, but still the performance is pretty high, even on UCF Sports. So that says something about the method.
So you mentioned that we have few classes for actions, but also classes are difficult to define. Like you argue that we should both.
Yes.
Sort of contradictory.
Just
to resolve this.
This is true. This is something that's I wouldn't say keeping me up at night, but it is keeping me up at night. This is one of the major problems in the field, is how to define the classes nicely. I've seen several different ways of doing it. One was R is just avoid the problem and look at same, not same, and that's it. So behind the scenes, we have class definitions, but we didn't really use them. What we used are people that sat down and labeled the same, not same, same, not same. And if the labels mismatched, then they mismatched. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is maybe going about the way that ImageNet did. I'm not sure if I know of a good repository. I didn't look, but a good repository of verbs maybe, or action definitions, and you can sort of pile up a lot of videos for each one of them and ignore the problem that there's a lot of intra-class similarities. I'm not sure how to resolve this problem. So this is a serious issue. What you mentioned right now is a serious and real issue. You need to break this sort of glass ceiling by adding more classes, but it's really difficult to define more classes. I don't think people are lazy, and that's the reason why there's no bigger data sets. I think it's really, really difficult to make the data sets bigger.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, please. So that takes us to the closing remarks for this workshop, which has been extremely interesting for me, and I was puzzled with the challenge of writing closing remarks before the workshop was held. So I wasn't really sure what to write in the closing notes. But one thing that really stayed is basically the fundamental numbers that we presented today are that the baseline that was compiled by Marak's group in November last year had an accuracy of about 44%, and the best result that was presented today, which was by the way submitted some time back, is 85.6% accuracy. Understood some of these results have in the midterm been improved around 87%, and someone like Cordelia had installed other things that she hadn't tried. So it's possible that the accuracy in this data set is already near 90%, and therefore there's a risk of saturation, I would say, even in a data set like this that at the sort of first sight looks very challenging because of its very, very large number of classes. So my question is basically a continuation of Tal's talk. In which direction should this data set be extended to be at the same time realistic and probing? And I'll probably put it out to the audience, and I've just written down some ideas. Do you think the number of classes should be increased, but simply by adding classes, or building something a bit more structured, like an ontology around the classes, just instead of having one class per video? Is there any suggestion in this direction, continuing like putting one class label per video, or structuring the ground truth information? I'm putting some bias here because I'm tempted to say that these videos are fairly complex and would require probably multi-labeling in the ground truth. So that's a first comment. Another comment that was raised in the past few days is the fact that these videos have been trimmed, have been clipped. So there are some original video posted on YouTube, and they have been clipped to select the action. And if I understand correctly, the clip videos have been used both for training and for testing. So one first direction could be to put out the whole videos, at least for testing, and still do the training with the clip video, and in the future even perhaps weekly labeled data like the whole video for training. The two, in my opinion, these two tests could also coexist to some extent. One could take the weekly label challenge and the fully labeled challenge. There's possible two versions of the same data set. The longer the video becomes, the more likely it is that the video contains more than one recognizable action. So I believe that perhaps another direction for expanding this dataset is towards multi-labeling, adding more than one label per video and having approaches that can recognize from 0 labels up to whatever number of classes will be defined in the dataset. There's this localization challenge that at the moment is a special localization challenge, but we're looking forward to something that may become spatial temporal localization, again, the more if the whole video will be passed on to for testing at least. At the moment the special annotation, if I understand correctly, is for 24 classes, and the special annotation could also, of course, be extended to the entire data set and the whole number of classes. I think on the side has been said to date that this data set has also been annotated with 115 attributes. Are the attributes just an instrument for the ultimate action recognition, or there could be the intention to recognize attributes? That's something that also connects with the idea of the ontology. At what level we want to label these videos. I also worked a little bit in emotion recognition a few years ago, and I noticed that in that community no one would accept the notion of a single ground truth label as just like a single data. There will always be a distribution around the ground truth. There will be inter-observer labeling, and there will be certain videos that have much more ambiguities than others. But that could be another direction to possibly extend the challenge. And that's from me. So I think that we have the intention to keep on running this, and most likely the next venue will be CCV 2014. I thank everybody for being here so long in the day, and if you have any questions or simply start a discussion now, thank you. Do you think we need an ontology as ground truth?
I can tell you that I've entered into Google several times, human action ontologies, looking for something like this, just to be able to start looking for videos and make a benchmark larger. When we started ASLAN, failing to find something like that, we looked at there's an MIT motion capture benchmark, and they have, I guess, several dozens, maybe several hundreds of actions, and we use that as the skeleton for the actions. I'm not sure, other than ontologies, what would be the best way to even go out and look for videos to produce the benchmark.
Rahul, do you think ontologies are a good way for the labeling?
I think it is. The good thing about ontologies is if you had one, it wouldn't have to be action specific. But I think it's very complicated to come up with a ontology that'll work for us for N years down the road. But maybe it's not a bad way to start out. I think someone would have to create something. I haven't seen the good one out there either. I guess on a somewhat related question, I guess you have the same, not same version. I know a lot of places actually do triplet ranking. They say A is closer to B than C.
Yeah.
And that kind of avoids some of the issues that your one does, which, then it's easy to say that a baby and a person squatting is better than a dog running. From that standpoint, I'd like to see non-human actions in there as well. I think that we have an implicit bias towards human actions, yet no one actually uses human pose in there anyway. So since most of our techniques are generic, why not actually broaden the classes to include non-human actions in their A priority?
Yeah, so I think that, all these nice points you raised. So from my point of view, we do need to increase the number of classes. I think that's something which we can do to have more things. With mentioning arrangement is 1,000 classes. It's pretty long fast. And in that, I mean, there are some actions of the vehicles, traffic. There are say where do you and so on. So one can aid to increase the number of classes. That is something we should be able to do and we should do. The second thing, I think from the more science and more understanding point of view, we do have to get into localization. Identifying where the action is happening, memory, also video, that's important. And maybe like treating this as not just classification, detection task. It may happen, the video does not contain any class. So we have to look at another class. And then we look at mean position and other competitions or using. So, and then the attributes is another very good idea that can, we were talking about earlier, that you can take these complex actions and divide it into these sub-actions, low-level actions, and that can be much more semantic. Explain what the action is, and you may have to kind of look into more complex actions as compared to just simple multi-level and so on. You can see that the emphasis in UCF, the series of these activities, the actions was main was to look at it realistically. These videos which are user, the character is not team background and so on. So which I think we have achieved, but there are lots of other aspects of good techniques to do with.
So it's probably fair, so please.
No, I was going to say, I think I strongly, support it. So in the past, I was very much a fan of spatial temporal localization, but that's maybe not the direction I see immediately. I think what we really do need to do is to break out of the whole clip forced choice mode that I think we're into, because that task is an academically interesting one, but I think we've shown good results there, and it's not a task that's actually useful to anyone. We can't use it in its current instance. And so even if someone wants to train using the clips that we have in, say, UCF 101, I think the testing set should be actually more realistic. It should be either the whole video, or it should be something more where the action is in context. And I support Mubarak's point about attributes, but you can think about attributes as being just another label that you're giving to the video. So even if you don't need to do any kind of localization in the video, it would be great to be able to say this clip, which is now longer than the clip that just contains the particular boundary action, contains, jumping or running or whatever. And I would be excited to see in the next challenge whether we can at least get people to do, for even a smaller set of action, being able to label yes or no on these set of binary things for larger set of action. And given that that's an easier labeling task, I feel it would be possible for us to create enough data to do that. So more classes, but annotated in a better way to make that feasible.
Excellent. So,
Actually, I have another point, like, if think about from how can people, other people, not just our the action recognition area, so how other people, like we can understand, they can use our action data set. So when we expand this action data set, we also make this action concept is useful for other researchers, like for the multimedia event detection, and they can consider our action as attributes, and they can change the action attributes detectors, and we have them to understanding what's happening in events, like I said, what kind of actions. even for surveillance, if we have very daily life collection concepts, and for surveillance area, they can use transfer that detector and directly apply to that surveillance videos.
So I think that would happen if we followed the plan here, which is that if we're no longer limited to getting these, to labeling temporally segmented actions into one of their classes, then automatically they serve as an attribute labeler or a detector. So I think that would happen.
So, yeah, please.
So I think it seems that for actions, it seems that we are trying to solve the proxy task. So it's not very clear that these actions which we are trying to recognize now, that they are going to serve. This is the ultimate goal, because as what also was in Carl's talk, so the same clip could be interpreted different ways, depending if what this person trying to do, like this portrait, for example. So but maybe what is clear is that you would like to understand the more structural. So it's, for example, it would not be maybe very useful to say have 1,000 classes which are maybe not very well distinguished even for person and that use bag of words to recognize them. So maybe it would be much more better if we construct a proxy task for us, that we, when we do something for action recognition, that we try also to discover the structure what's inside it. And so I think what Raul was saying, that maybe having more longer videos and more actions in it, and I would say also ask people not just maybe mention say which actions are inside, but also say what order. So this could be 3 different difficulties. So one is just to say what actions are inside. Second is the order, because different videos could have the same actions but different order. For example, if you want to do a query for activity, then you could type, say, walk, sit down, answer phone, right? Or it could be another activity, answer phone, stand up, walk, which could be very similar on the clip level, bag of words. But if we would set up the task of actually getting the right order, this would be very interesting.
Could we also maybe get counting? You could say, how many times
Right.
do you see handshaking in this? Because that would also, it'd be relatively easy for us to annotate. It would break you out of the mode of, yeah. So that would be
Because in most of these videos, we have these cycles, like God saying several
Right.
times happening, and even these different actions. So that also taken into account.
Right, so you could actually say, and so you could answer that either through a sliding window that counts, or you could train some kind of awesome regression system that can just say, I count it directly, but it forces us out of the local minimum of just getting a bag of words and kind of pumping it to the max.
Yes, I think maybe having a benchmark where we have progressively more difficult tasks like naming, ordering, or temporal localizing, and eventually spatial temporal localization, this would be good. Because currently what we also experienced also there is KTH, yes, but then there is actions in movies, for example. It's very big gap. So it's probably to solve actions in movies or YouTube, you probably need lots and lots of more training data. So creating some intermediate tasks, I think would be interesting. Maybe ordering something like that.
Probably take 2 more questions and please comments, one here, one here. Okay.
So connecting to that, I think an interesting challenge could be to look more at the live and the streaming, such as done in sports and surveillance. So currently the approach is very forensic, but actually what you want is you want to predict what action is going to happen. And if you can say that 1 second into the action rather than after the action has been completed, you have much more valuable technology. And I guess that will be a big challenge for many methods.
So people have explored that primarily in the case of like UI type tasks, right? They're saying you're watching Kinect data and you're saying you need to do with low latency, you need to predict if someone is doing a punch or a kick or something. But anything that,
So So if you've been to the sports analysis workshop, they actually want to do an automatic recording. They need to know that someone is going to shoot it, because once he's done it, you can't change the camera. And that's why the precision is so important. And that can even be a different action, preceding the action of interest.
Getting back to the subject of ontologies, I would really hate to wake up one day in the future and find that I've been assigned the task of building an ontologies for actions. Not just because I don't think I would enjoy it personally, but I don't think I'm the right person. I don't think it's computer vision's role, maybe, of building ontologies or something like that. I'd really love to have a domain expert coming from whatever field of
Cognitive psychology.
yes, like that, building ontologies for action. So in that respect, some of the suggestions that were raised here, that take the focus away from the actual labeling and put it on other things are very good.
Excellent. So I was thinking of a nice way to wrap up this section is we could continue probably for long, but maybe if you have any ideas, they could send an email to the workshop organizers, and of course I hope we will stay in touch with the challenge and with the letters. Thank you very much.